The apartment was so quiet that Mira could hear her own heart beating, a fast, erratic thumping of a woman who had run out of options. The power had been cut 2 hours ago, leaving the rooms in a suffocating, ink-black darkness. Every shadow felt like it was closing in on her. Mira sat on the cold linoleum of her kitchen floor, the freezing temperature seeping through her worn-out jeans. She didn't have the energy to move. In the other room, her 6-month-old son, Noah, was whimpering. It wasn't the loud, demanding cry of a hungry baby. It was the weak, exhausted sound of a child who had no more strength left to scream. It was the sound of defeat. Mira's eyes burned with tears she could no longer shed. She reached for the formula tin on the counter, her fingers trembling. Empty. She shook it, hoping, praying for a miracle, but only the hollow, mocking sound of metal echoed back. She checked her bank app for the 10th time that hour. Exactly 42 cents. Her phone was at 4% battery, a glowing blue lifeline in the dark. With shaking hands, she pulled up her brother Ben's contact. Ben was her last hope, even though his wife, Sarah, treated Mira like a plague. Sarah saw her as a leech, a failure who couldn't keep her life together after her husband had vanished into thin air. Ben, I'm begging you, she typed, her tears blurring the screen until the letters danced. I need $50 for formula. Noah is weak. He hasn't eaten properly in 2 days. I'll pay you back on Friday, I promise. Please don't turn your back on us tonight. I have nowhere else to go. In her frantic state, her thumb slipped. Now, she didn't notice that the last digit of the number had changed from a 4 to a 7. She hit send and dropped the phone on the floor, burying her face in her knees. She closed her eyes, praying for a reply that would save her son's life. 3 miles away, in a penthouse that touched the clouds, Jackson Albright sat in a leather chair that cost more than Mira's entire apartment building. He was the ghost of Helix Core, a man who ruled a tech empire with an iron fist, but lived in absolute, sterile solitude. His private phone, an encrypted number known only to 5 people in the world, buzzed on the black marble desk. He picked it up, expecting a security breach or a billion-dollar merger alert. Instead, he read a message that smelled of raw desperation and heartbreak. Noah is weak. Most men of his status would have blocked the number and moved on. But Jackson was frozen. The name Noah hit him like a physical blow. He remembered a time 25 years ago when his own mother had worked 3 jobs and still skipped meals for a week, just so he could have a gallon of milk. He remembered the smell of a cold house and the sound of his mother's quiet, midnight sobs. He stared at the screen, the vulnerability of the message piercing through his armor. I think you have the wrong number, he typed back, his heart racing for the first time in years. Mira's phone buzzed on the floor. She grabbed it, her breath hitching, hoping for a yes from Ben. When she saw the stranger's reply, her stomach did a slow, painful flip. The wrong number. She had just bared her soul to a ghost. She felt a wave of shame so hot it made her dizzy. I am so sorry, she replied, her fingers flying across the screen. Please ignore me. I'm going through a hard time. Truly sorry for bothering you. But the stranger didn't go away. Is the baby going to be okay? He asked. That one sentence, the first bit of genuine kindness she had felt in months, broke the dam. Mira told him everything. She told the stranger about the sudden layoff, the husband who walked out, the empty tin, and the frozen floor. When he asked for her Venmo, she sent it, expecting maybe $20 to buy a single can of formula. A second later, her phone lit up the entire dark kitchen like a flare. Venmo, Jackson Albright has sent you $5,000. Mira let out a choked sound, a mix of a laugh and a sob, and her hands shook so hard she almost dropped the phone again. "This is too much," she messaged. "I can't take this. Who are you?" Jackson's reply was short and commanding. "Noah deserves better than enough. Buy him the world, Mira, and check your door at dawn." The next morning, the sun felt different. It was bright, sharp, and full of promise. A heavy professional knock at the door revealed 3 couriers in black uniforms. They didn't just bring formula. They brought boxes of organic purees, designer baby clothes, a state-of-the-art crib, and a gold-trimmed envelope. Inside was a single card with the Helix Core logo. "I don't just give money, Mira. I give opportunities. My car will be downstairs at 11 a.m. Bring Noah. It's time you stopped surviving and started living." Mira looked at the name, Jackson Albright. She realized she hadn't just texted a stranger. She had texted the man who owned the city skyline, and he was coming to change her world forever. The limousine ride to Helix Core felt like a dream Mira was afraid to wake up from. For the first time in months, Noah was dressed in soft, designer cotton, sleeping soundly in a portable bassinet. As the car pulled up to the skyscraper, a monolith of glass and steel that seemed to pierce the very clouds, Mira felt a surge of adrenaline. She wasn't just a mother today. She was a woman with a purpose. The lobby of Helix Core was a cathedral of modern technology. People in $5,000 suits hurried past, their eyes glued to tablets and phones. But when the elevator doors opened on the 50th floor, the executive level, the world slowed down. Jackson's chief of staff, Ava, met her with a professional nod. "Mr. Albright has been expecting you, Mira. Your suite is ready." Mira gasped as she stepped into her new office. And it wasn't just a desk, and it was a sanctuary. To the left, a massive mahogany desk sat in front of floor-to-ceiling windows. To the right, a fully equipped luxury nursery had been built overnight. There were designer toys, an automated rocking crib, and a view that made the world look small. "I don't believe in half measures," a deep, gravelly voice said behind her. Jackson Albright walked in, looking more like a titan than a tech mogul. His presence was overwhelming, yet his eyes held a strange softness when they landed on Noah. "You called this an opportunity," Mira said, turning to him. "What do you really want from me, Jackson?" Jackson walked to the window, his back to her. "My company is bleeding, Mira. Someone high up is stealing millions, disguised as research grants. My board is full of sharks, and my executives are too comfortable. I need someone who hasn't been corrupted by the system. I've seen your academic records. You were the best forensic auditor in your class before your life took a turn. I don't want a stranger. I want the smartest person in the room who has nothing to lose." For the next few days, Mira became a shadow. She sat at her desk, her eyes scanning thousands of lines of data. She ate her meals in that office, working while Noah napped. She ignored the whispers in the hallway, the sneers from the senior partners who called her Jackson's charity case. But she found it. Deep in the sub-ledgers of the Trinox project, there was a recurring leak. Small amounts, never enough to trigger an automated alarm, but over 12 months, it totaled $6 million, and all of it was funneled into an offshore shell company. And the digital signature on the authorization was unmistakable. Vincent Harmon, the chief financial officer. Mira was headed to the break room for a second pot of coffee when the air around her seemed to grow cold. "You're digging in places where people get buried, little girl." She turned. Vincent Harmon was standing there, his silver hair slicked back, his gray eyes like chips of ice. He didn't look like a thief. He looked like a king. He leaned in, his shadow completely swallowing her. "Jackson has a soft spot for strays," Vincent whispered, his voice like a snake's hiss. "He thinks he's playing hero, but I know your type. You're a cockroach from the slums, and cockroaches belong under my shoe. I've already looked into you, Mira. One phone call from me, Law and Child Protective Services will be at your door. A mother with a history of debt and no stable housing. They'll take that baby so fast you won't even remember his name." Mira's heart hammered against her ribs. The fear was a physical weight, a suffocating heat. For a second, she was back on that kitchen floor, powerless. But then she looked at her reflection in the glass wall. She saw the woman who had survived the dark. "The spreadsheets are already encrypted, Vincent," she said, her voice barely a whisper, but sharp as glass. "You're not threatening a victim. You're threatening the person who holds the keys to your prison cell. If I were you, I'd start looking for a lawyer, not a social worker." Vincent's face twisted into something monstrous. He reached out as if to grab her arm, but the elevator chimed, and Jackson stepped out. Now the change in Vincent was instant. The monster vanished, replaced by the polished executive. That night, Jackson found Mira sitting in the dark office. Noah clutched tightly in her arms. She told him everything, every word Vincent had said. Jackson's jaw tightened so hard Mira thought it might break. He didn't just look angry. He looked lethal. "He crossed a line he can't come back from," Jackson said, kneeling in front of her. "He thinks he owns the shadows. He's wrong. We're moving you tonight. My private estate in the valley is a fortress. My security team is already downstairs. We're going to let Vincent think he's won for exactly 12 more hours. Tomorrow, we finish this." As Jackson led her toward the private exit, his hand rested protectively on the small of her back. For the first time in years, Mira didn't feel like she was running away. She felt like she was marching toward a battle she was finally going to win. The safe house was a fortress of glass and charcoal stone, hidden deep within the mist-covered valley. For 12 hours, Mira lived in a high-tech cocoon. While Noah slept peacefully in a room monitored by elite security, Mira sat in the library, her fingers flying across a laptop Jackson had provided. She was finalizing the kill file, the digital evidence that would bury Vincent Harmon forever. But as she accessed Jackson's private high-security server to upload the encrypted audit, a folder caught her eye. It was simply labeled Legacy Debt. Curiosity overrode her professional instinct. She opened it. Inside were old, grainy photos from nearly 20 years ago. Her breath hitched. It was a photo of a young, scruffy Jackson standing outside a dilapidated diner. Standing next to him, with an arm draped over Jackson's shoulder, was her brother, Ben. Jackson hadn't just answered a wrong number. He hadn't just stumbled upon her by chance. He had been searching for the family of the boy who had shared his meager meals and his only blanket during their hardest years in the foster system. The mistake text was the cosmic spark Jackson had been waiting for to repay a debt that could never truly be settled with money. He didn't just want to save her. He was protecting his family. The silence of the valley was shattered at 3:14 a.m. The perimeter alarms didn't blare. They hummed a low, vibrating warning. Vincent Harmon wasn't a man who waited for the law to catch up. He knew the audit was finished. He had sent a cleanup crew, 4 men in unmarked gear, to retrieve the hard drives and ensure the witness never made it to the boardroom. Mira didn't scream. No, she didn't panic. She grabbed Noah and retreated to the panic room behind the library's bookshelves, just as Jackson had instructed. From the monitors inside, she watched the thermal silhouettes move across the lawn. Then the front doors didn't burst open. They were opened from the inside. Jackson Albright stood in the foyer, his tailored suit replaced by tactical black gear. He looked like the storm itself. He didn't wait for them to reach the stairs. With the precision of a man who had spent his billions ensuring his own survival, he neutralized the threat before they even touched the first step. The crew was pinned down by Jackson's elite security within minutes. Jackson looked directly into the security camera, his eyes burning with a lethal coldness. He wasn't just a CEO anymore. He was a protector. The next morning, the sun rose over Helix Core with a brutal, cold clarity. Inside the boardroom, the air was thick with tension. Vincent Harmon sat at the head of the table, his silver hair perfect, a smug, arrogant smile playing on his lips. He was addressing the board of directors. "Jackson Albright has become a liability," Vincent announced, his voice smooth as silk. "He's hiding in the valley with a common drifter. He's neglecting his duties. Today, we vote for his removal." The heavy oak doors swung open with a bang. Jackson walked in first, his presence commanding the oxygen out of the room. But it was the woman following him that made the board members gasp. Mira Jensen didn't look like a common drifter. She was dressed in a sharp, ivory power suit, her hair sleek and professional. She carried a tablet like a weapon. She walked straight to the head of the table and stood opposite Vincent. "The CEO is not unstable, Vincent," Mira said, her voice ringing out with a terrifying authority. "He was simply giving his new director of internal audit enough time to finish your funeral arrangements." With a flick of her wrist, the massive holographic screens in the room came to life. She didn't just show the thefts. She showed the audio recordings of Vincent's threats. She showed the GPS logs of the men he sent to the safe house. She showed the $6 million sitting in his Cayman account. Vincent's face went from smug to pale, to a sickly ashen gray. He tried to stand, to shout, but the doors opened again. This time, it was the FBI. As the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, Mira didn't look away. She watched the predator become the prey. That evening, the city lights were twinkling like a carpet of diamonds below the Helix Core penthouse. The chaos had settled. Vincent was behind bars, and the board had unanimously confirmed Mira's new position. Jackson found her on the balcony, the wind whipping her hair. She held up the old photo she had found in the safe house. "You knew," she said quietly, "about Ben, about everything." Jackson stood beside her, looking out at the skyline. "I knew the name Jensen. I spent 10 years looking for the family of the boy who saved my life when I was nothing. But that text message? That was destiny, Mira. I didn't help you because of a debt. I helped you because you had the fire to fight back when the world tried to crush you." He turned to her, his hand reaching out to finally cover hers. "The audit is done. But I don't want to go back to a quiet penthouse. I want the noise. I want the nursery. I want you by my side. Not as an employee, but as a partner." Mira looked at the man who had turned a wrong number into a right life. She didn't say a word. She just took his hand, and together, they looked out at the empire they were going to rule.